G'day, we're here with Darren Mudford today on his property Urunda, which is about 75 kilometres out of Nyngan via Hermidale. And we're just going to, how many acres are you running, Darren?
There's 17,500 acres on a couple of properties.
Yeah. So mixed farming operation, and in particular today we're out here to have a look at the mixed species that we've got. What have we got planted in here, Darren?
Got a mix of oats, barley, radish and lupins.
Yeah, righto, so a four-way mix. Run us through the spray program, cultivation, whatever, when it started. And it was a wheat crop last year. So wheat crop last year, wheat stubble.
Yeah, and it was one of our weakest paddocks, wheat crop. Then over the summer, we had a wet summer, but we got sprayed twice straight after harvest off the header, then one other time. And then pre-plant, we did nothing. We just planted it straight in before any of the natural winter plants had germinated. And then what came up and grew is what we have here today.
What about your spray program after that?
Yeah, no, definitely didn't wear it out in this paddock. We haven't done anything. No chemicals.
No in-crop spray?
No in-crop sprays. We planned it with just compost down the tube with the seed, and that was it.
All right, yep, that's our friendly compost-based fertiliser.
Yeah, no synthetics.
Some real big advantages with the mixed species. And this year it seemed to be that the radish has really come through in the end, hasn't it? And sort of made a lot of bulk in this crop.
Oh, it would be 7 years, I suppose, we've had a mixed species crop, and every year it seems to perform different depending on the temperature and the daylight length maybe, and weather conditions. Sometimes you get a big carrot, other times it's all in the ground, flowers early or later. Maybe it's just good at picking up what the season wants it to do.
Anyway, we'll walk out there and give them an idea of what height we've got in this crop.
You'll have to pick a short bit because it's too hard to walk through the tall stuff.
So we've got everything showing up here. Look at that. Look at the biological activity going on there, and that radish. That's this season without next season or anything. And how's these lupins? There's plenty of lupins on that lupin plant. Oh, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 pods. And they're all averaging at least 3. There's a little bit of grub damage superficial on the outside of there. The one grub might have got one seed in there, but there's been no... How many times have you sprayed your monoculture lupins for bugs this year?
Yeah, it's had one spray and it's probably touch and go whether it needs a second one.
Yeah, righto. And so we're on no sprays here. This is what we're always talking about with the barley in the mixed species. It comes up and goes, like some of this barley's been out in here for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's still going to come in the header box when we get around, it dries off enough and we get around to harvesting it. Our oats are making oats. And then best of all, you've got these old radishes. There, 5 seeds in this pod.
And a big seed too.
Oh, yeah, they're always a little bit bigger before they dry down. But
Yeah.
but the amount of radish that's in the crop, that like it didn't come through until late, did it? And get up as tall as it did.
Yeah, no, it's done really well.
How are you finding it compared to the monoculture? Just in general, planting, keeping it alive, harvesting.
I sort of feel like it's looks after itself. You don't have to do too much extra or anything extra really. Yeah.
And the time it takes to harvest?
I don't know how it does it, but it just seems to sort all the different seeds out and put them in the box and throw the chaff out.
Because we passed one paddock that was pretty lodged. What's that one, the lupins?
Yeah.
And you got lupins in here?
Yeah. Yeah, there is lupins in here. Yeah, there'd be about 25% lupins. Yeah. Yeah, and to harvest it with, we don't change anything. There's no special front or different sieves. It's just straight out of a wheat paddock, straight in here. First time we ever did it, wondered what was going to happen, so it was like, don't touch anything, we'll just go and get a sample, and that's where we left it.
So you just did one pass, just one?
Yeah, jumped out and had a look, and yeah, the sample was, couldn't have asked for better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got a 4-way mix, as in 25% of everything?
Yeah, I usually split the seeding rate up to divide the amount of species, and then whatever, if there's 4 different ones, and then it'll be 25%, so that becomes 25% of their normal sowing rate.
The thing is, because of how it's grown and been, with no in-crop sprays or anything, there's weeds, or there's other plants in this paddock, but then no way are they impacting on this crop, and they're still going to be there. So after we've harvested it, anything that's green and still in the bottom of the crop will be sheep feed.
For sure.
And there is, comparing it to a lot of other crops, because we've got some barley stubble in here, and there'll be an occasional lupin that didn't get harvested, and the oat stubble, there'll be a reasonable amount of feed value in the crop after it's harvested.
Yeah, definitely. We always find the sheep do better on a mixed stubble versus a monoculture stubble.
And then you've also got the feedlot as well, which do you offer that to externally?
Yeah, we have done in the past. Fed stock on consignment. Yeah, which we've used some of this before. Back through there, which is stock do real well.
Just run us through how the yield goes with your mixed species compared to your monocrops. Tonnes per hectare.
Tonnes per hectare. If we had and our wheat average was 2 tonnes a hectare, I'd expect this to be fairly similar.
Yep.
Yeah, in total volume.
So there's no penalty in tonnes per hectare with your total grain harvest to your monoculture crops?
No, I haven't seen it. Any total penalty.
Yep.
One time we did do a lap around it for hay with our mainstream oat and hay.
Yep.
We had a few bales there in the shed, and they were at the back of the shed, and it's amazing how when the rams come past and they're a little bit hungry, they walk to the back of the shed to eat the mixed species hay. Other times I put one of these in the sheep yards, an oaten bale in the sheep yards, and every time they'll smash the mixed species one before they touch the monoculture oaten hay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they don't do it for no reason.
No, well, I didn't even tell them to do that.
Self-organising systems.
Yeah.
This is some of the oats that is coming out of the system.
Little shower of rain last night, mate. It's a bit dewy.
Here's our tillage radish. It's only got to dry off some more and then it'll be ready for harvest, but the tuber on the bottom, and with the rain that we've had, we've already got some biological activity going on in there. So all that biological activity is happening in a hole that this tillage radish punched into the ground. It's where that tillage radish just broke off.
Daikon.
A daikon radish. We're not selling it at the moment, Darren.
Today.
But you see here, Tamsin, like just right there, there's the lupin, but he's only a small one. Another small lupin there. But you only have to come over here, which is only 5 metres away, and then all of a sudden we got a fair few lupins. And with plenty of pods on them. So things changed. You know, there would have been the same amount of lupins planted there as what was planted here. But the lupins just did better here than what they did over there. Just here there's probably a little bit less tillage radish, but that could have had to do with the competition from the lupins. But you know, we can only surmise about what these things are going, but it's always a combination of things that's going on here. But this year, definitely, this is probably the most uniform, I think, Darren, we've had the radish across the paddock at a fairly high density.
Yeah, for sure.
But then if we look at just over there a bit further, I think we're seeing a few more oat heads poking up into the top of the canopy. But everything's in here. Everything's in here.
Yeah, if you can just take one off.
Oh.
You'll see
And here we are, nitrogen nodules all over the roots. And these weren't inoculated either, were they?
No inoculation. Never grown lupins in this paddock.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'll get a close up on that. Just gotta do this one. Thank you. Can you eat that? Brilliant. Thank you.
Just run us through the story of this last year with when the Steve Petrie did the leaf analysis on the wheat.
Yeah, so this paddock that we've just grown the mix in, we did the tissue test and the results come up pretty bad, and his comment was maybe just spray that one out and don't worry about seeing it through. So yeah, definitely coming from fairly poor soil health.
And then, the other part, just run us through the management, what you did with it last year.
Yeah, so it was a grazing wheat, our wedge tail variety, and we We sowed it early and then grazed it, fairly heavy really. And then
What sort of production do you reckon? How many sheep did you have on how many acres for what? Just give us some rough numbers on that.
it was 600 ewes and their lambs. I can't remember, I think it was about 130%, so whatever lambs that was. And they would have been on it for 8 weeks, or in and out 2 to 3 times, and it's 80 hectare paddock.
Yep. And then what about when you put the header into it?
Yeah, I still did 2 tonnes a hectare.
Yep. And then this year, yeah, we're looking at a mixed species in there with a little bit of friendly fert under it, no analysis fert. Hardly two sprays through the summer, and no in-crop sprays. Another 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll have the header in there, and the proof will be in the pudding.
Yep. And I'd fully expect it to do 2 tonnes a hectare again.
Yep. No, that's... Yeah, so when all things considered there, when you take, like, you haven't spent a whole lot of money on that crop this year.
No.
This has put on any amount of growth since we were out here looking this with Greg Barr the other day, hasn't it?
For sure. Yep.
Oh, but it's not just the silk that's done it.
Everything.
There's plenty of grass in and under here. Oh, and it's not just grass either. Don't worry. There's plenty of everything. The ground cover's improved.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, moving forward, I think putting more of these summer mixes in our winter mix for recovery down the tracks where we'll probably be heading.
How are you going for time there?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Righto, Darren, we're standing in this, there's silk sorghum coming along here. Just run us through how it got to where it's at. Go right back to the failed attempt at mixed species last year.
Yeah, so last year we sowed it, did a similar thing to the previous paddock we were just in. Sowed it early to mixed species, and the mice were full on, a bit of worst, or the only plague I've really seen since I left school. And they just dug up all the oats and a lot of the other seeds, and it was barely going to bear your crop. So come June we decided to re-sow it, and to much of our disappointment. So we re-sowed it to wheat, and then we also tipped in some silk sorghum just into the wheat seed as it was going into the air seeder, just in case, to see what happens, whether it'll come up later. And it did. It's only a light rate, we didn't want it thick and heavy. Just wanted something there to be growing when the stubble comes leading into the summer. And yeah, it was amazing. At harvest time, the silk was this high and the wheat was this high, and once again, those headers, they just saw her out, put the green stuff out the back, and all the wheat seed come in the box.
I didn't realise that. So the sorghum was out the top of the wheat when you harvested the wheat out of it last year?
Oh, for sure. It would have been 5 to 6 foot high.
Oh.
And the crop was down fairly low, been a late sown one. Oh, we were panicked about it a bit early, and we thought that could be a problem, so we tried to strip it, and when they were about the same height, and then we had a lot of green, smashed up chuff coming in, and it was too wet anyway, so we went to a different paddock, and then, yeah, as it got taller, it actually made it easier for the header to sort it out. I think the straw stayed in longer pieces and went straight out the back.
Oh, righto.
Yeah, then we'll able to reap a little bit of sorghum seed off it 5 or 6 months later as well. So we've got 2 crops and only sowed at once.
Yep.
Yep. And then the idea of having it is to, eventually as the silk dies out, we'll hopefully get it regenerated with natural grass.
Well, there's plenty of silk sorghum in here now. I see when we were driving out here, there's some sheep in it already. They don't seem to be making a mark in it.
No, half the reason they're in here because it's very low on grass seed, this paddock compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were driving around in the water spreading banks paddock. There is plenty of grass seed out there.
Yeah.
It seems that the sorghum using the moisture in the summertime has reduced the ability for the weeds to proliferate in here.
Yeah, well, one thing, big observation was usually coming out of a stubble, if you want it to go back to grass, your yellow burr comes back first, which doesn't sort of yield much grazing. Having the silk in here for competition or for whatever reason, it seemed to have really minimised the amount of yellow burr.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It is. It's a very, very good result. And talk us through the costs.
I'm pretty sure the silk sorghum was $2 a kilo, and we put in 1 kilo or just under. So yeah, $2 a hectare extra, and no more work. Just pour it in.
That's pretty cool. Like you said already, it's two crops. Oh, harvested 2 crops of it inside 6 months.
Yeah. And only sowed it once.
And only sowed it once. And tell me who else in England did that this year, last year?
None that I can think of.
Yeah, that is cool as.
Yeah.
We're limited on time. You've got some footage about the fence, haven't you? Yeah. So what if we'll just walk back to you? What if we just talk about the fence?
Yep.
So Darren, in the drought, when you had a bit of spare time, and you'd sold all your sheep, you built that exclusion fence. Tell us about that.
We had time. I don't think we had money. It was clear to us at the time that the drought would have been half as bad if we got to eat all our own grass. With the previous fence that was there, had no way of being able to manage the real big grasshoppers, the kangaroos, and any other vermin that were unwanted livestock. We did have time with the drought. We didn't want to put off our employee, and we didn't have stock as much to deal with. Being a boundary fence, we could pull it out and we had time to put it back up. So we made the call to do the whole 25 kilometres. We went right around. It's been a good year ever since it started to rain, so it's probably really hard to say whether it's, as of today, it's heaps better, but the potential is massive. Even reading an email this morning, they've seen a wild dog 40 kilometres from here, so that's just another added advantage.
So what's involved in putting up an exclusion fence? It's not just a walk in the park, is it?
No, you got to remove the old one, clear the line, level it, and then erect a new one.
Exclusion boundary fence, it's not like you can build it in your spare time, is it?
No, for sure. And that's what we weighed up at the time. Do we wait until we get a good year and we can afford it, or do we borrow the money and do it now? And I'm so glad we bit the bullet and did it when we had the time. Yeah, since the rain, it's no more affordable than it was in the drought, and we definitely don't have the time.
And what about the dollars per kilometre for fence right now compared to when you bought it?
Yeah, I got a quote the other day to do some more, and it's double the price from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, would have been flat out saving twice the money, and not had the time to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely a big advantage there with not having to put your employees off. Oh, and building a fence on employee wages, not contract rates.
Yeah, and I think also too it was good for the mental health too. You had a purpose to go to work every day for 6 months,
Yep.
and you could see, the positive behind it, and instead of watching animals die or whatever, if that's the path you chose.
Spending money to work hard to feed dying animals.
Yeah, it just doesn't work for me.
We went and had a look around the water spreading banks today, and we've taken some footage of them. What are your main points or key points or observations of that in the last few years?
Yeah, we did it in 2017, and then we had 3 solid drought years. So I think for every time they forecasted rain, I was up there waiting to see what would happen, and nothing happened for 3 years. Yeah, didn't see instant results, I guess. And then when it did rain, it's our worst country when we expected it to be our best. So straight up was maybe a little bit disappointing. Given it time, it's definitely taken it forward leaps and bounds now.
Yeah, we were up there this morning, and my call is that it's between 85 and 100% ground cover all over that paddock, and we could have flogged a flea across it 3 years ago, couldn't we?
Oh, for sure. Yep.
Well, we've out there in the water spreading, and there's a reasonable amount of yellow burr out there, or bogan flea. It is making ground cover. That's been our observation over time, that it's a bit of a hump that we got to get over with the bogan flea, because it just doesn't seem to appreciate other things growing around it.
Yeah, for sure. And the stock don't do very well on it, and it's full of burrs, and yeah, it's less desirable.
So moving forward on that paddock, what do you reckon the management plan's going to be there?
It'd be ideal. I think we could do it with grazing. The one whether we put in fast forward and maybe look at controlling some of that yellow burr, and then planting it back straight away, a bit more desirable.
Yep. Yeah, well, with that amount of ground cover that's in there, and now that you've got a disc planter, like some of the grass, well, we've got all sorts of options, haven't we? We could kick them around. There's, you've got the whole mixed species option there, but then we could be undersowing it with some exotic grasses and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And between each bank could be a different trial, couldn't there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yeah, observations are very important, aren't they?
For sure, yep.
And who's writing the book for us here?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to find one.
So we got to write the book ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yep. Yeah. And I think you've often said you got to see what you're seeing when it comes to observations.
See what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's not always the first thing that you see, is it? Well, and maybe it's never not what you're seeing, but then what else are you seeing as well, and what else, and what else, and what else?
Yeah.
So I'm really appreciative because I know how flat out you are, and if it's going to rain on Sunday, well.
Yeah.
So thank you, Darren.
No worries.
Amazing. You're doing such a good job too.
Yeah. I love talking, don't I?
Oh, you do a good job when we get you going.